said earlier, you're going to hear the perspective of a lot of different people. Okay, we're blessed within our club program alone to have, you know, a college coach. So I know constantly I'm asking Brian because, you know, we're talking to coaches to do it. I'm like, hey Brian, like this software company that keeps approaching us, like are coaches actually going to utilize this software program and look at kids? It's like, no, they're not. You know, so I can get that true answer from a college coach. All right, we've got two guys, Dan Mulford and Coach Hyken, who are at, you know, two pretty prominent high schools in the area. So they get to see from the high school standpoint, but then they're also two of our best and highest level high school coaches within our club program. All right, so Dan got to walk through it with a bunch of the 2019s. Now he's back down to the 2024s. He's going to be walking through that process with them. Okay, Brett's been able to walk through with a lot of different kids along the way, but now he's with our 2021s. Okay, so for him it's brand new because all this legislation just went into effect. And it really affects his class and his team the most, okay? So when you hear, hey, like they can't talk to 2021s or there's no recruiting 2021s, you know, Brett's telling me literally he ended the tournament last week and he's already got, you know, 4 phone calls about these 4 kids because coaches are allowed to figure out a way to have conversations legally and ethically, but not necessarily to talk about what they can't talk about in that process, okay? And then we've got Noah and Judy who just walked through the process of committing to Boston, and you'll be able to hear the player's perspective and also the mother's perspective, which we all know is the most important perspective of all perspectives anyways. So let's get started, okay? I think the one thing just to capitalize on and just to pinpoint on the top, as Brian said, is not only are there different resources within high schools, but you know the reality is within our club and even as individuals, we all have different economic implications that allow us to do certain things, okay? And so you know what? There's some people in this room that, man, they could fly to 15 different schools and take off work and go different weekends and visit everything, okay? Or it could be like me, and I'm not going to do that with any of my sons. I'm going to be very strategical about, hey, what's the best bang for my buck? What's the best time value for my money, okay? So we understand that. I know some of those questions, and you'll feel that in some of the answers. But we're going to jump right in real quick to talk about kind of the money side of recruiting and where to spend the bang for the buck, okay? And so first question is going to Dan Mulford. Dan, talk to us about prospect days. You know, what is a prospect day? And, you know, how do you see that as value to someone that might be interested in a specific school?
So prospect days are single days or maybe a full weekend potentially where colleges invite student athletes to come to their campus and play for the day, meet with the coaching staff, go on a tour of the campus. It's a way for 2021s, right, 2022s potentially that cannot necessarily talk to a college coach through text message, phone call, or email about recruiting. It's a way for them to get to campus and meet all of the coaches, get a tour, get a feel for that campus. It's, quite frankly, it's like a little loophole, like it's a way around the system if you are not a junior after your September 1 of your junior year. In that world, I'm sure all of you probably currently are getting email after email after email every single day inviting you to prospect days. And as Brian alluded to a little bit, where you attend or what you want to attend is really based on you as a family, right? And so if you back that up a little bit, kind of talking about what, as a student athlete, what are your goals, right? So thinking how far away do you want to travel? What size of school do you want to go to? What do you want to study? What is the financial world for your particular family? Answering those questions first is going to allow you then to narrow down what prospect days you might be interested in. And then taking it a step further, which Coach alluded to, we as a program are going to really dig in and meet with you if you would like, right, to really help guide you in that direction. So in that prospect day, we have, you know, I got asked to come to these 10 prospect days. You sit down with us and we see those 10 invitations. We can do lots of different things with that. We can communicate to you where currently as a coaching staff, we see your son fitting in that particular school. And then furthermore, I guarantee you someone in our program has a relationship with that particular college coach, and we can call them and say, hey, listen, Johnny got this invite. Are you really interested in him, or are you just sending it out to every 2022 in the country? And we will get answers, right? They respect us enough to tell us the truth, right? We've gotten truthful answers in the past. Because at the end of the day, right, and I was a Division I college coach, I was as guilty as anybody else, we use those prospect days to make extra money for our volunteers as new coaches, right? So we do invite guys who maybe we're not necessarily interested in, but at the same time, we're also inviting guys who we're super, super interested in. And because of those rules, we can't differentiate the way in which that's communicated to you. So we as a club are going to help you kind of differentiate what that looks like in that prospect camp world.
It's great. I saw Miss Judy shaking her head numerous times over there. And Noah, real quick, just talk, what prospect camps did you attend, how many? And then Miss Judy, why don't you just echo in too on, did you receive the 500 emails of every single Division I, university and Division II in America, or how did that work out?
So early on, I think it was going into my freshman year, because things started a lot earlier when I was going to high school. Because prior to legislation, I went to the Penn prospect camp. Like me personally, I got really nervous for prospect camps. I wasn't great at showcasing myself in front of set Division I coaches. So I would always kind of play okay with them at prospect camps. Nothing that would make them pull the trigger on me there, but also nothing that would be oh, we don't want him, so prospect camps didn't help me a lot. I do remember Coach Wolford said don't let they invite kids who they want there, and they also just spam all of you. I remember the first time I went, I was a sophomore, I went to a Harvard prospect day, and there was about 200 kids there, and I could tell from the very beginning that they had their eyes on 2 or 3 kids. And I kid you not, there were times when the whole coaching staff would be watching one game and the rest of us are just kind of playing. So, and then on the contrary, next year, my junior summer, I went to another Harvard prospect camp and kind of got the other side of it when I was kind of one of the 10 people they were looking at. So, you'll kind of know if they're looking at your son. At least that's how I kind of felt about it.
Hello?
So you don't have to be invited to a prospect day. If you have $250, they'll take it. And that's my experience, is that, you might get an invitation, and you did get invitations, but we were like, oh, do you want to go to this one? Do you want to go to this one? And they're expensive, and you don't have to get invited. If you can pay, you can go. And so you should realize that they may be interested in you or not. But it is a good opportunity for your child to see a particular school. That is a good, you play, and then you can walk around campus and you can see the campus.
Yeah, one more thing I'll add. Evidently, the school that ended up recruiting me the most, BU, never attended a prospect day, never sent them an email. So, yeah.
I'll add one thing on prospect days. I think they're interesting in the fact that, you can go and, you could have your heart set on, I want to go to Harvard. And then you get there and you play for that staff, and you absolutely hate everything about that staff. Well, all of a sudden, your focus, whether they like you or not, that's 4 years of your life and your lacrosse career that you have to play for that staff. And there's a staff and a program for everybody, whether it's Division I, 2, or 3, through your college, club. There's a program for everybody who wants to play college lacrosse. And I think that's the part that we all have to get through our heads. Not everybody's an ACC, Big Ten, Ivy League player, and that's okay. And that's really something we all know. But when you attend a prospect camp, you're interviewing them as much as they're interviewing you, in my opinion. You're interviewing the school, you're interviewing the food at the school, you're interviewing the bookstore, you're interviewing the classrooms, you're interviewing the coaching staff. And if you get there and you had your heart set on that since you were 5 years old, there's a good chance you hate everything about it, and you have to be realistic about that as well.
And just one final note, as it relates to coaching staffs. You know, the environment, and I live it, the environment as a college coach has dramatically changed. And there's more pressure, and there's more turnover. So, you know, the idea that, you know, you're going to go to a school based on a particular coaching staff, you know, the idea is that you really need to make sure that that school is a great fit for you, regardless. You know, if, you know, God forbid an injury, you know, are you still going to be happy at that school if lacrosse is taken away from you? Is that coaching staff still there? And at the end of the day, again, there's, I think, everybody in the process, mom, player, dad, you know, grandmas, whatever, you know, speaking in that know the individual player, that know the young man. You know, again, you need to guide the process and ultimately be really good consumers.
I have a question. My son's only a freshman, but do you think that there's any value in going to a prospect day now so that, you know, when he really is interested, that he knows what the process is like?
I would say yes. I mean, if he's got an idea of schools that he's really interested in, that have potentially in his mind, he thinks that he's going to be a doctor, let's call it, and that school has a pre-med program, and there's you know, qualities that this school has. I think absolutely it's great to get him on campus and experiencing what that place has to offer. You know, provided again that, you know, you're able to do that without stretching yourself, because at the end of the day, there's also value in our club. There's value with being associated with FCA Lacrosse. That, you know, those schools that you are interested in, okay, we're going to be able to, you know, get you to a point, you know, hopefully where FCA is going to allow you those opportunities without necessarily having to go and do a prospect day.
That's good. I know one of the things that's become really popular now is, you know, showcase events or showcase tournaments per se, like an Under Armour or a Maverick or a Blue Chip. Brent, I know you were heavily involved with Under Armour tryouts, and not because of Brent or other people, but we were blessed to have several FCA kids make the Under Armour team in the last couple of years. But Brent, just talk about the value from an Under Armour tryout standpoint to making a team and that process when it goes to recruiting.
Absolutely. I think the one thing I'll say about that process is we were not perfect as a staff picking the team. You know, I had the pleasure of one, coaching Noah, two, we didn't lose a game and we didn't have a close game, and there were still kids on the outside looking in. I look at it across the MIAA and the public school landscape, and I was like, how did we not keep so-and-so? And what was our closest score? 4 goals? I think, you know, we 10-goaled a few teams at that tournament. It's one of the most competitive ones, and the process wasn't perfect. But what I do know about the process is at that tryout, there was many kids who got seen by college coaches who did not make the team. We have one student who plays for me at Loyola, where that's where the ball got rolling. And I think, you know, he recently committed, and the one thing about that is that was before all of the FCA tournaments. He was hurt the first half of the varsity season, didn't play, was a third, second line type midi. Now he's committed to a very good school. Why? Because everybody saw him play there. They then wrote down his name and came and watched him play his FCA tournaments. They liked what they saw. He had some good looks. At the tournament, everybody was there. The issue with our team, we have 3 uncommitted kids going into it, right? 3. We have 3 uncommitted kids going into it, and not many kids flipped schools off of it. So they were more so at the tournament, in my opinion, watching the guys that were committed, right? That's not to say the 3 kids who were uncommitted, they weren't watching, because they were. But we had 23 guys on our team, and 20 of which were committed. They all committed after. But those 3 probably would have committed regardless if they made the team or not. Did it help? Yes. Is it life or death if you make the Under Armour team? No, because like I said, the process wasn't perfect, and there's many kids across the league and the public schools that we wish we had space for, and in that room, we couldn't do it. You know, I think Noah said to me, how did one goalie not make the team? And I said, you didn't have a great tryout, and you know, you did. Okay, well, that's what happened. That's not to say the goalie that we kept, the second goalie we kept, wasn't an elite goalie. It's just to say that's a household name in this area, and he wasn't there. Again, the process wasn't perfect, but there were many kids I know who committed off of just the tryout process.
In that same world too, it's a recruiting event in itself, just going to try out. So if you think my kid's not even close right now of making that particular team, still go and try out. We are a big proponent specifically for this Under Armour world of going and trying out, because I think Coach can attest to this. Every single college program is there for the tryouts. Every single one, right? From Division III to Division II to Division I, they are all there watching the tryouts. And it's a really inexpensive way to get seen by every coach in the country. So even if you think, if you're a player sitting in the room right now, even if you think you're not even close to that world of making the Under Armour team, still go and try out, because there may be a coach there that really likes you, and that starts that process.
I agree with what Coach Hyken and Coach Wolford said. My freshman year, I tried out for the Under Armour team, didn't make the callback game, had an awful tryout, didn't have a savable game. I mean, I was pretty upset. I called Travis Crane. He told me to take a shower, and I was like, Travis, what do I do, man? Like I just got cut from Under Armour. Like, I'm not gonna get recruited. Like what should I do? He goes, go take a shower and call me back. So I went to go take a shower, called him back. He goes, how do you feel? And I go, still pretty bad. And he goes, well, I don't care. Like this is one thing. So at the same, there's a lot of value in Under Armour, and if I had to pick one showcase to go to, it would certainly be Under Armour. Compared to I don't even know what the other ones are called anymore. Yeah, like Maverick, Blue Chip, which has kind of gone away. But certainly we're privileged that we live in the Baltimore area, which a lot of coaches, I know when I made the team, my BU coach texted me it's known that the Baltimore Under Armour team is probably the hardest one to make. And so the coaches respect that, and just showing up at these tryouts. I have a friend who didn't make the team, but after the tryout got a ton of looks. So certainly recommend the Under Armour tryout.
The other thing with the Under Armour tryout, even like Coach Paul was saying, even if you don't think you're a guy who can make the team, I know a kid who was very realistic that he's a Division III lacrosse player. Every Division III school that he wanted to called him, and he sent them an email prior, hey, I'm going to be at this tryout. He doesn't start for his high school team, right? He played a position where, let's say goalie or faceoff, where only one realistically plays, and he was a backup. He committed to the school he wanted to commit to, a Division III school, off the tryout process, right? Because he played well there. So I think that's the big thing that Coach Maltz is stressing, that it's not about necessarily making the team, it's a big deal to make the team. And certain kids definitely make the team and go farther along the process than they may have necessarily expected. But everybody is there, so you do get the looks you want to get off of it. And this particular player was realistic about who he was and reached out to the schools that were realistic for him.
Right. So you guys are entering Under Armour and Blue Chip and Maverick and I don't know what else. How do we know what that is? I mean, for instance, of course everybody knows Under Armour, but the other second tier or first tier, but who tells us that and when?
You'll find out. they will find you. They will find you. And what is?
We all just heard you say you may not be invited, but you go anyway. So how do we find out?
No, well, Under Armour's out there. There's the Maverick Showcase. There are these events that have been around for years, and the kids really know about them too. So when it comes time that your son gets to that point, you'll hear about it. The events will be reaching out and marketing to you as well. So that's going to come your way. And then what happens is we're here as a sounding board. We're here to help you through the process and say, yeah, Under Armour is great. And for field players in particular, you're paying, X number of dollars. My editorial comment to any field player that goes to Under Armour, you're deaf that day. You do not hear your name. If they're yelling for you to come off the field, you don't come off the field. And you literally play as many minutes as you possibly can. It's a showcase event. You're there for yourself, and that is one time in your life that you need to be selfish. Because the sheer numbers and volume of kids that are going out for these teams, okay, you only get X number of minutes in a particular game. I think they go like for 38 minutes maybe tops, and then they're flipping the teams and you're right on the field. And so it's really important that, again, as a consumer, you go there and you get the most out of your money and you stay on that field as long as you possibly can until they drag you off the field. And then, again, every college coach. It's hosted at Goucher. It's been at Goucher the last several years, and they're not lying. I mean, every single college coaching staff that's out there working hard, is at that event because it's the only tryout on that particular day. It is the only event that is going on essentially in the recruiting world on those two particular days, late May, early June. And so it's an unbelievable opportunity for the kids in our area to be noticed. And then as far as Blue Chip and these other events, I guarantee you, you won't have any shortage of spam emails coming your way to have your kids sign up, or recommend your kid for this event and that event. So,
And like Brian said, we'll help you guys navigate that process. The Under Armour has two divisions, a command and a high-up division. So for instance, this year the highest division would be 2020s and 2021s. And then there's also a 2022-2023 division, So for instance, you as a son of the 2023, it would behoove you to go out there and try out. Now, very few 23s make the team, but even going through that process is an experience for him. And then it sets him up for the following year to have a better show out when he's 23 and a little older like that. So let's shift focus now to just recruiting services. Okay, and this is something that's changed drastically just in the last couple of years. You've got recruiting services. Number one, hey, we're going to pay someone $1,500, and he's going to walk you through the whole process and try to get us a scholarship someplace. You've also got recruiting service B, which is more, hey, all these online different tools that are out there. Okay, and before I talk from our perspective here from College Coach, I wanted to just reach out to you and your mom and find out. Did you guys use a recruiting online service like Captain U or lacrosserecruits.com or any of those things that you pay a monthly fee or an annual fee for? And if so, what was the benefit to you in any way, shape, or form if you did?
So I still get weekly emails from Eric and Captain U telling me that a college coach is requested to see me. So I know the answer to your question, straightforward is no. I never used Captain U, I never used any of those kind of sources. And then you mentioned like paying someone $1,500 to like how to navigate that recruitment process. And I would, like, if you want to pay Coach Wolford $1,500 to do that for you, again, like I found myself very lucky that I was a part of FCA and the program because they kind of, like, I could see the potential in those recruiting services being valuable if you didn't have a club program like FCA or whatever high school you go to. But the fact that I was able to have my Gilman coaches and Coach Wolford and the whole kind of FCA program that colleges respect a lot, that kind of was my Captain U, and that kind of was my recruiting service, if you will.
I would second Noah, but I would really urge you to use everything that FCA has to offer. FCA is your recruiting service. You pay for FCA. So I would use FCA, and they are more than helpful and happy to help you. I can't tell you the number of times I stood in a driveway outside talking to either Travis or Dan Milford about colleges calling and what Noah should do, and the advice was spot on, and any time of night, and phone calls went on, and I would stick with FCA.
We appreciate it. I know the one thing, if you haven't yet, you're going to start to get emails from CaptainU, you name it, all right? We honestly get approached probably about once a week or once every 2 weeks from these companies, or maybe even a new company out there that says, hey, we got the greatest database ever, and crap using it. We give us the 15 teams that are using it, and they go, all you have to do is put all your players' information in, upload the profile picture and the video, and it's going to go to every coach out there. And then you know what? Coach Kelly's going to go in through the back end, and he's going to find you. And that's your way to get that scholarship and to go big time. And it's like, no. And we've sat down, we've demoed them, we've looked at them, but I think the truth of the whole thing is like you just sit down and go to a Coach Kelly or a Coach Tillman or whoever they have relationships and go, hey Brian, do you ever use Captain U as a resource to find a player like straight from the get-go?
Not at all. And actually, one of my coaching mentors, great friend of mine, he literally says to me, all the time, he goes, why do we do all this stuff? Really the guys that I have on my team are because I picked up the phone and I called Dan Mulford and I called Brent Hyken. And so, as it relates to a recruiting service, to market your kids, I mean, to me, it's not worth the money. Again, we, philosophically, we are stepping up to the table to say, to our 2020s that are out there, 2021s, 2022s, we want to be your recruiting service. We want to utilize the relationships that we have within the coaching landscape, to help your sons be recruited. You're spending your dollars with FCA, and we want to make it. We want to make your money work for you, and we will work, on your behalf to help you, navigate this process. And again, in the past, it's been sort of if a family would call us, we're here to help. Because again, everybody has different resources and connections. But at the end of the day, those services, are not where the college coaching staffs are going first.
Yeah, the one comment I always make to these salesmen that approach us is like, hey, look, like we had 28 guys in our first class that committed, like not one of them used Recross the Drew.com. We believe there's other things that FCA offers, including playing at just top-level events that gets us in front of the right people, and they're not going to be using recruitingservices.com or whatever pipeline that they're trying to sell you on. So stay away from that, or you can always ask us for advice before you pay that $100 a month or whatever they're offering to give you that special deal, okay? Hey, let's talk about highlight films, all right? You all see lots of highlight films out there, crazy music about highlight films, different things that are seen and shown in the highlight films. Noah, I looked to make sure 2 days ago, to make sure that you had not only 1, but 2 or 3 highlight films out there. Talk to us from your perspective as an athlete, a committed athlete, what do highlight films look like to you? How did you get yours done? Did you pay someone? Talk through that.
So my highlight films, I kind of made one my freshman year, one my sophomore year, and then I committed early October of my sophomore year. So I kind of stopped making them, but I have a lot of like that's not because they're just fun to make. It's fun to be a little narcissistic sometimes, but I made them. I'm not quite sure from a college coach's perspective how much they value them, but let's see. I think my freshman one was probably my best one, just in that I always I put all the information that I wanted the college coach to know about me: contact name, club coach name, high school coach name. And then I kind of put probably from best to worst was a tip that I got that I think is important because college coaches aren't going to watch 7 minutes of your highlights. So best to worst, kind of my best. For me, it was saves and clears and just good plays.
And then in terms of, yeah, how I made it, I don't think there's that much value in paying, I don't even know who makes them anymore, money to make the film. There's certainly value in buying the film from the tournament, but we normally went, gathered a group of 15 parents and kind of split the film, so we weren't all paying $300 up front for the film, but then I would just send the film along with kind of the clips I wanted to some of my more tech-savvy friends at Gilman, and they kind of threw them together. There's a kid, TJ Hausler, makes a lot, puts them on his YouTube channel. Yeah. So there's, in terms of making them, your sons will know who to go to for that one.
I think one of, now that the 23s and higher are starting to get into recruiting-based tournaments, I'm glad Noah brought it up, but every tournament offers film packages, okay? And if you want to individually buy the film, it's $275. We'll give you $50 off if you use this coupon code, right? But if your whole team signs up, your whole team gets the package for $700, all right? Know that as FCA Lacrosse, we always try to navigate, and so we'll kind of communicate ahead of time, hey, how many people want the package? Let's get the team package. It'll save you way amount of money, okay? And then literally we get an email afterwards, we can send it out to you guys, and literally you have every single game of the tournament that you played in filmed professionally from a certain angle, okay? More and more, and we have a couple of dads that love the film, and more they're going to these recruiting events, and tournament directors come up and go, excuse me sir, you can't be here, you have to go all the way to the sideline. This is for our paying, customers of trying to film professional type things. So even that is becoming a business in itself that we're trying to help navigate, different parts of it. Brett, I know you've seen tons of different highlight tapes. Talk to just your standpoint of what you've seen, and then we'll pass it down just to two guys that have been involved with college coaches. Brian Kelly, I know you don't like looking at 7-minute long videos. Dan, I know you hate certain songs that you hear. We'll talk to them.
Yeah, I would say a few things with highlight tapes. First thing is, who are you playing, right? And I think it's really easy for that tackling from FCA, who's, plays in the MIAA, who is known as one of the better players out there, to score 4 behind-the-back goals and, sting a few corners on a team that's not very good. Well, if you're shredding a defense and stinging on a goalie who nobody wants, well, that's also in the highlight film that, okay, well, look who he's playing. So I think the competition matters. I would say, especially for, the MIAA guys, your high school season highlight film holds way more weight in the sense that they know who you're playing, they know the competition, they know the value of it. Now, I think a summer highlight film can show who you are as a player, what your strengths are. Obviously, I've never seen a face-off guy lose a face-off highlight. I've watched all of Noah's videos, and never once did he put when he got ripped at the Under Armour tryout in his highlight video. That day was not in there. So, from a highlight film perspective, you're only seeing the best. So, while that shows the good things, coaches still may be at the game where you got shredded and not have interest. So that's kind of my take on it. They're definitely cool to make, definitely hold some value. They might watch 45 seconds of it and say, okay, this is a kid I'll go watch at his next FCA event.
So just from my perspective, make it easy for the college coach who's watching it, right? And so that would mean in the world of make sure that you put your name, right? Make sure you put your contact information, your club coach's contact information, your high school coach's contact information. Make sure that you put your number on there, right? So if you don't have a highlight film that necessarily, when you're making a good play, right before you make that good play, either circles you or it freezes and it kind of highlights you real quick so we can put our eye on it, at least make sure that your number is correct so that coach knows exactly who they're looking at. There's nothing worse than getting a highlight film and it doesn't have any details on it and you just don't know who you're watching. So that's important to have as well. Make sure it's not terribly long, right? So I'm I'm going to speak for myself. When I used to watch them as a college coach, I didn't usually go past the 4-minute mark, right? 4 minutes for me was enough. Other coaches might have different opinions, but you certainly don't want to send along a highlight film, a YouTube link of 20 minutes. No one's going to watch that. They might as well just watch an entire game of yours. So keep that in mind as well. And along that, I know Ryan was joking a little bit, but just along those lines of what songs you use and that type of thing, I know we laughed, but it is true, right? Make sure the songs that you pick are not going to offend anybody, and just don't have any verbiage in there that's kind of inappropriate. You would be shocked, right? That the kind of stuff that does go on highlight films. And college coaches, they don't want those kind of guys, right? They want guys that are respectful, that they are going to love being in their locker room. And that's the first sign, right, of a guy that may cause problems on their campus. So something you may have not thought about, but that's really important.
So production value, and now these highlight films are getting to the point where we're starting to see like the great play is now 25 seconds long because it's in super slow-mo. It's 25 seconds of my life that I'm never going to get back, as a coach. And so, the music is really important. There have been times where, my speaker's up or whatever, and I click on a highlight film and, there's some really bad language, and next thing you know, it's coming out of my office. It's stuff that you need to be mindful of. And so, what I would say is, again, that sort of that 3-minute to 4-minute, showing a wide range of skills. Noah alluded to, clearing. Not only saving the ball, how do you look outside of the goal if you're a goalie? If you're a defender, we want to see what your footwork looks like. Not just pick up the ground ball and run to the other end of the field. There's some value in seeing that, but we want to see whether or not you have good footwork. So putting yourself in those positions and showing a wide range of skills. As an attackman, let's see a split dodgy guy. All different types of skills. If you can think of a particular skill for the game of lacrosse, that's something that you should have in your highlight film. Not 25 different goals of you coming topside around the corner and shooting the ball right-handed. If you put your stats on the front page of the video with your name, your address, and the pertinent information, we're going to see that you scored 75 goals or whatever it is. We don't need to see all 75 goals.
How do you use the highlight film? Is it? I look at the highlight film to say I'm going to go do this guy next tournament. Is there kind of a use that you would use do you recruit kids solely on the highlight film? Or
it just depends. It depends on the kid, right? I think that the difference with FCA and this is just where I am as a Division III college coach. There are some kids that I need to recruit that I'm never really going to see play in person. Whereas, an FCA lacrosse club is going to go to some very strong tournaments that you're going to be exposed to, every college coach that you want to be exposed to. So, really what what we're looking at from our club standpoint, is sort of just that interest. You're showing them that you're interested, and maybe here's a teaser of why you should come and watch me play. That's sort of what I see the value from an FCA standpoint. As a Goucher coach, yes, I'm going to look at how smoothly a young man splits from his right to his left, and how quickly he gets his hands into a position on his stick to make the next play. I can see that on film. I can see if he's super raw and clunky and needs a lot of work. So those are the things that just depends. But again, as an FCA lacrosse player, it's really going to be we've got a wide range of high schools represented, right? But there's a certain pedigree that comes out as it relates to an FCA lacrosse player, Loyola High School, Gilman, Friends, John Carroll, whatever it be, St. John's, St. Andrews down in DC, or we have kids coming from all over the place, right? That's a great pedigree. You know, so as you are setting up McDonough, you know, as you're setting up all these you know, the page on your highlight film, you know, you need to let the colleges know that, what you're all about. You know, where you are, what you're doing, what you've been doing. You know, that's the value to me.
Do you recruit a student without a film?
Absolutely. I mean,
So are the films critical?
they're not critical. They're not critical. But, you know, given technology today and everybody's access to video, really, like we all have a high-def camera for the most part, I assume, you know, that is in, you know, somebody's pocket that you can create a highlight film, you know, and again, it's not about production quality, you know, that the opportunity, that if you have that ability, you know, it does not hurt. It does not hurt.
Yeah, as it pertains to publicly available video versus unlisted video that sits specifically to targeted coaches. I mean, how much are coaches going out and researching and looking up players that maybe didn't get that email versus should we just be sending it specifically to coaches?
Well, I can tell you, you know, I think coaches will go out and they'll search for kids. You know, if they've been at a tournament, or they're talking to, you know, a buddy of theirs and so said, yeah, you know, watch this team or was at this practice, whatever, and they mention a name, you know, Ryan Kelly Lacrosse. Go to Google Ryan Kelly Lacrosse, and then you search to see if they have a Huddle account or some sort of film that's out there. So, you know, having a film put together is definitely, you know, there is a value to it. But is it critical? Do you need to have it? No. But again, it's just one of those things that you know, if you have it, it does not hurt you.
Yeah, the way you guys talk about making mistakes with what you put in, both from song choices to the words to the way one views a dodge that could be interpreted negatively against you, right? I mean, it's a risk.
I'll say this, have one of us watch your highlight tape and listen to the song before you post it. I'll say that again, have one of us watch it. We will tell you what to cut, and I have told many kids what to cut. The other thing is, for instance, Cole Herbert did not get recruited because he had a fancy highlight film, right? Someone else did not get recruited because they didn't have a highlight film. Some kids didn't get recruited with highlight films. If you are good and you play for FCA, which all of you do, you will get recruited. I can promise you. If you are good and you perform, you will get recruited. And I think that's something that you guys need to understand, is it might not be to the school you want to go to. It might not be your dream school. I always wanted to go to the University of North Carolina. I did not go to North Carolina. I went to Stevenson and I loved it. And I think there is a school for everybody, and it does not matter if you have a highlight film. Does it help? Yeah, it helps. I have a student at Loyola who had one in 8th grade and never wants to make another one because he didn't like that everybody talks about his highlight film from 3 years ago. And he doesn't even make another one. There's another student we have that we said, Matt, Bud, we need you to make a highlight film. We need to send it out for you because you need this. Some kids do, some kids don't, and that's something you guys have to figure out as a family, whether it will help sending it out or it will hurt.
For instance, I was telling these guys, you know, we see a lot of highlight films obviously, but I'm starting to see FCA in more highlight films because it's prestigious when I do score the goal on Noah Klein to go, great goal against FCA goalie 2019, Noah Klein, you know? So it's just interesting how people are starting to show, like, you know, going against that top guy or against that top team on the other side of it. So, hey, let's change now, focus just to communication, okay? And I want to take out real quick just the Recruiting 101 page if you got it. I'm just going to read this first paragraph below this grid here, a little table graph. That just talks about the new recruiting rules. Okay, I just want to go over this real quick. So, for those part of it, you've always heard, man, we had back in the day 8th graders, I think even maybe a 7th grader that was committed to Division I school. I'll be honest, I think we as FCA had 4 or 5 8th graders that were committed, and now this new legislation is coming into place, which is great for everybody, okay? So adopted in April 2017, this now makes September 1st of the recruit's junior year the start date for all communication and contact with college coaches. Parents and relatives fall under the same restrictions as recruits and may not act as an intermediary. In addition, club and high school coaches may not circumvent these contact restrictions, such as conveying verbal offers. College coaches can speak with club and high school coaches in an evaluative process, such as about a recruit's play at an event or their position on a college recruiting radar. Okay? So, for instance, Mr. Owens was talking about sending Daniel to a prospect camp, and his son is a 2022 player. All right, so if you were going to send Daniel to a prospect camp, we would encourage him to email the head coach or to email the coaching staff and say, hey, Daniel's coming to the University of Pennsylvania. He's going to be at that. Are you going to get anything back? No, you won't. Okay? We would encourage us as staff to call up the coach and go, hey, just so you know, FCA 2022 defender is coming to the camp. Okay? Might we get anything back? Probably not. All right? Now, fast forward, we've got Brett Heiken, who's our 2021 coach, who right now 2021s are not able to be contacted. Okay? Brett, I'm going to let you talk about it briefly because we were just at a tournament last weekend, or 2 weekends ago now, and you have been approached and had communication from coaches, but I want you to talk about specifically what does the communication look like and what has that been?
So I think the biggest thing is, I'll say it's been a smaller sample size. I helped out with Noah's 19 team before Dan came along when you were in 8th and 9th grade, right? And it was very different. And I think now it's very organized to the sense where, I got an email from a coach I really respect. I think he respects me. Can you give me a list of X amount of guys who you really think are good, whether it's on your team, the Crabs team, and the other teams in the area? So not only did I give him a list of the kids I thought were good from my 21s, I said, here's the kids I coached against who I really thought were talented. And I think that's kind of how the dialogue started, because not only did I was honest, right? I can be best friends with Dan Mulford at the University of UCLA, and I can call him and say, I love Noah Klein, you have to take him. And if Dan doesn't think Noah's any good, he's not going to take him. It doesn't matter if we're best friends and we live together and all of that. I can't convince a school to take you if they don't see value in you as well. So I think that's something we can speak on your behalf, but the connection doesn't necessarily matter as much. But after this weekend, we had a few players really stand out. Some of their names may have been, big board names, and they called and said, hey, we're having this prospect day, and we're not inviting a lot of people, and we're not opening it to the public until late in the process. Can you get so-and-so interested? And said, X, Y, and Z may be very interested. C is not interested in coming to your school. D is not interested in attending a prospect camp. He doesn't think he needs to. And F will have everybody calling September 1. So he said no thank you as well. But here's 4 kids that will fly across the country and pay you $300 for you to maybe not take them. We'll call them September 1. So I think that's kind of how it works. And I think, even the kids that are going, if they go and they play really well, they've now played in front of that staff, and that staff has an opportunity to want to coach them. And I think that's something that's interesting is, I can tell everybody that Noah Klein's an incredibly coachable kid, but I can tell Dan Mulford Noah Klein's the most coachable goalie I've ever coached, but until Dan Mulford coaches him, he doesn't know if he's coachable. He can take my word for it, but again, he can see how he plays. But being coachable is the #1 thing people want, because you're not a finished product. And I think first of all, I don't care about the rankings, but if I did, if you were ranked #1, you're still not a finished product in high school. So you still have a longer way to go. And if you're not coachable and you don't want to continue to progress, it's not worth it in the college coach's mind. So the prospect camp, they get a chance to coach you, get a chance to spend time with you. So I think there's the benefits of it where they can call after these and hold these prospect camps in the winter and try and get you there.
Noah and Judy, real quick, talk. Obviously, you had a lot of communication back and forth with coaches and programs. The rules were different when you started that process earlier, but talk through how did communication work? Was it frustrating? Did you lean on, your 2019 coach at the time? Just talk through that.
So I guess I'll go through my process and let's try to keep it brief. But going into 9th grade, I was I had my heart set on the University of Pennsylvania. The coach basically told me, we're an Ivy. This was before the rules, so we could talk at prospect days, and you did notice you're talking through your high school, or through my club coach at the time, which was Travis Crane. And they basically told him, it's early, we want to wait, and kind of he's our number one guy right now, but we're an Ivy, we're going to wait. And then the next thing I know, Travis calls me, freshman year, and he goes, sorry to tell you, Penn took the goalie. So, communication, coaches can be misleading, and they're not always, going to say how they feel, but in general, listening to your club coach and communicating through them was kind of where I found my most success. When I was communicating a lot with BU and Harvard, I definitely found my most success communicating through Coach Wolford or through Brooks Matthews, my Gilman coach, or through Travis. So, and also just other connections I had made throughout the club world. And again, we play in the MIA and the public school leagues around here are great leagues, and you make a lot of different connections. So I knew that if I needed him, Andy Hilgardner would, the McDonough coach could talk about me, and coaches do talk, and I think that is kind of what I realized a lot too. I didn't have to reach out to certain coaches because they already know who I was, because I played well in front of the Colgate coach who told my BU coach was at the tournament, and I played well in front of the Colgate coach who told the Lafayette coach, who told the Navy coach, who told the BU coach. So word spreads very fast, and just in terms of communicating with coaches, definitely I went through my club coach.
I guess this is the right time. This process is like a sieve. And it's sort of as parents, I think we can't help, or maybe I'll speak for me, you have your heart set, right? I went to Penn, husband was a Yale guy, and we were these are the schools, he got a really smart kid, and his grades were good, and everything was right. And it shapes out, and I played college lacrosse, and so I kind of was living that through him. Bad idea. Just sort of try to keep an open mind with it, and they do wind up where they belong. That would be my best advice, is that it shakes out, and it just sort of is eyes wide open.
And then in terms of, I'm looking at these questions here, realizing I didn't really answer any. So recruiting questionnaires, a lot of coaches will have to fill out. I picked very early, probably earlier than your son will have to because of these rules, but probably 6 schools that I would be very happy attending. And that list consisted of 3 Ivies, BU, and 2 others, schools that I went to Michigan, and I came in with 6. Filled out their recruiting questionnaires, and those are kind of the 6 schools that I would send, where am I playing this fall, where am I playing this summer, and from a player's point of view, I'm not sure how much that helped, but I do know what helped a lot was, hey, Coach Wolford, hey, Coach Crane, hey, Coach, high school coach, can you reach out to Coach so-and-so from so-and-where and tell him I'm playing here and see if he's interested. And again, that kind of communication through my club or high school coach was very valuable to me. Yeah.
2 quick things for you guys. I think one thing, I coached at St. Albans in DC last year, and maybe, I guess with FCA, with other connections, I have more connections down there than other people. I didn't get many calls about my St. Albans guys. My phone rang a lot the day after we played Landon, Bullis, and Gonzaga. And they didn't ask about what we did to be successful against them. I got a lot of, how was number 2? What was his body language like? I said, oh, number 2 for us didn't play. No, number 2 for Gonzaga. And I gave an honest assessment. And I don't know if it worked out for that kid, if it was contact, but they will ask an opposing coach. So, you know, if you're gonna be a jerk on the sideline, and you never know who's gonna get the phone call. The other thing is coaches do move. For instance, one of the 2019s was ready to commit to a top 10 school, had offers from Syracuse, Hopkins, and he was about to commit to a school that wasn't the right fit. And this is summer going to sophomore year, and it just wasn't the right fit. Well, all of a sudden, a coach who was at Providence who loved him, and again, Providence wasn't the right fit, switches to an Ivy League school. And about a week before he said, this is the deadline, I want to make my decision to this school, which everybody knew was a terrible fit, athletically, academically, socially, this is the wrong school for him. He said, do you guys mind calling over to him and see if he'd have an interest at me at the Ivy League school he's at now? And we called, he goes, oh my gosh, I can't believe he's uncommitted. Yes, can you get him up there this weekend? And this is a Wednesday. And we said, yeah, how's Friday night sound? He goes, perfect, we'll be there. Committed on the spot. On the spot. So you never know which coach is going to switch schools, and you never know what's going to happen. So when schools call you that you might not be interested in, be respectful. It might be the right school for you, it might not be, but entertain it, speak to it. You never know. I mean, he had no interest in Providence, but that was the first phone call he took with the college coach. No interest. Sure enough, the guy's going to be his college coach for 4 years at one of his dream schools.
I want to save some time for questions here at the end, but before we do that, talk real quick, Brian and Dan, just about scholarships and the financial component that goes into these decisions. I know, Dan, you saw it because you were with Robert Boris before, you know, and got to even offer different packages. Brian, you see it now from the D3 school, but just take a couple minutes before we open up for questions to talk about that aspect.
So in that Division I world, it depends on the school, right? But specifically, you know, very rarely, very rarely does a student get everything paid for in his first year. Very rarely. So when you hear one of your buddies or one of your neighbors say, I got a full ride to this school, most likely that is not the case. They may have gotten a significant amount of money, but most likely that's not the case. From the 4 years that I was coaching in that Division I world, an average size scholarship, and we were pretty close to fully funded, the average size athletic scholarship that we gave was between $3,000 and $4,000 a year, right? And our tuition was over 20 grand. Now, we were able to what we call stack. So stacking means you can earn academic monies, and then you can also earn athletic monies, and then put them together. Some schools don't allow you to do that. It really depends on the particular institution, and that is a question that you should be asking as you get to that process. Can you stack? If the answer is no, then you take whichever one you obviously get more of. Do you get more academic money? Then you're going to take that, or do you get more athletic money? You get that. I will say this too, I know just from my personal experience, if guys do continue to improve through their 4 years, a lot of coaches will say, your freshman year, you're starting out with a $4,000 athletic scholarship. We will tell you that it will rise as you go through those 4 years. So that is something that was not uncommon for us. We would add an extra $1,500 maybe per year, which is then you could eventually get to close to being a full ride student your senior year potentially. But that is another conversation that you should have as well.
And I think it's really important that we, at this point, because we've talked a lot about the lacrosse, and we have spent very little time on the academic component, and it's super important for these student athletes, they don't say athlete student, it's student athletes to really focus in on the academic side of things. And so there are definitely advantages for your sons to be great students that will potentially earn a full ride. So where a school can stack money on top of each other, typically if you're hearing somebody say it's a full ride and then it's a school that can stack money, then they were able to get a really strong academic scholarship, and then the institution and the athletic administration was able to then make up the difference with athletic money that gets them to that, close to full ride. And that's usually where you're hearing that conception. It is not a full athletic scholarship that these students, for the most part, are earning. It's the academics that are helping them combine the athletic money to get them that full scholarship. So it's really important that these students do well in the classroom, to allow themselves the opportunity to use the tool of lacrosse to open up a wide range of possibilities for themselves. You listen to the list of schools that Noah rattled off, and obviously there's some God-given ability, I believe, in there that was handed down between mom and dad to help Noah along the way. But at the end of the day, I mean, he's working hard too. It just it doesn't just come by showing up.
Yeah, I think just being a student and then an athlete really helps you, even in committing wise, not how you think it would. I was in a meeting room with BU on my unofficial visit, and he was like, we were all there, our whole class, and they're all going in and being like, oh, I gotta get my SAT scores up, oh, I gotta get my GPA up, and I walked in, and the coach was kind of having good SAT scores, it makes you so much more of a valuable recruit than you realize. I didn't realize how important I was, because teams, at least at BU, there's an average grade point they have to hit, average SAT score you have to hit. So if you can bring that up and allow them to recruit someone who isn't as intelligent or doesn't have as good scores, and the grades aren't there, they value that, because then they can take some kid who's maybe one of the 10th in the country and doesn't have those scores. So definitely, I think for me, being able to maintain my high academic standard and grades was very important to me, and definitely paid off in the long run.
Just again, being at Goucher in particular, I mean, you look at a school like us, Division III, academics are going to pave the way for an opportunity at a great education. And there's just tons and tons of scholarship money that is available via the academics, and that is just, you're going to get more money on the academic house side of things than you are on the athletic side.
So I know we're all here for lacrosse recruiting, but there is a decision I think you have to make ultimately between, are you going to college for academics, are you going for lacrosse, and that sort of marriage of the two. And we did have a conversation with Noah about, we couldn't talk him out of playing lacrosse in college. That was his dream, he had to play lacrosse. But I don't know, you have to think about academics could lead you one place, your lacrosse can lead you another place, and then you have to find a place where the two could meet and your child can be happy.
Yeah, no, that's good. We always talk with athletes and parents and say, hey, it's not a 4-year decision, it's a 40-year decision, right? It's not just about the 4 years there lacrosse-wise. And as a reminder, you see in this sheet here, the average Division I roster has 47 players on it that shares 12.6 scholarships. That's not per year or per class. That's literally for all 4 classes, that entire team. Okay. So at this time, what we'd love to do, just to be sensitive to everyone's time, is to kind of open up the floor for questions. So if you've got a question or maybe a topic, something that we haven't hit yet tonight, you want to just go ahead and you can pop your hand up. We'll let you ask the question, and then we'll let the appropriate person try to respond and answer that for you.
So I just want to say, first of all, thank you for giving us a bird's eye view into this process. In past years, it's always been like a secretive thing. You go into this room, you come out with a scholarship, and everybody goes out. So I really appreciate that. I do want to say is, so each position generally will provide you with a different opportunity for scholarship award, yeah? Can you talk a little more about that?
Definitely. As a
Goalie, like, you're kind of at a disadvantage because they only take one. And some will take one a year, and some will take one every other year. And so it's hard. You know, you got to find the schools that are taking the goalie, and they're not only taking goalie, but they're taking one in the 2019 class, and they're taking one in the 2020 class. And, you know, I know certain schools set caps for their midfielders and their attackmen and their poles. So yeah, that definitely plays a role.
I think we're going through that particularly now with a player of ours. You have to keep an eye on the particular recruiting class as well. If you are a lefty attackman, right, and there's already 2 lefty attackmen that are being in that particular recruiting class, maybe it is the right school for you. Keep that in mind. Again, back to the academics 40-year decision, right? But also, if lacrosse is a very important piece to you, that should be in the back of your mind as well, right? And trying to determine who those lefty attackmen are. If you're a lefty attackman, you know, do you feel like, and utilizing us as a resource, do you feel like you're better than them, or allowing us to have a conversation with that particular coach so you don't get into the point where there are 3 lefty attackmen and you're the 3rd on that list, right? Then you're getting to a point where, oh, did I make the right decision? You know, specifically, yes, the position does matter, whether it's a goalie, a face-off guy, a long stick midi, a close defenseman, attack, midfield, right? And allowing us to do our work as well and calling the contacts that we have just to make sure that where they see you fit is the right fit. So.
And then you apply to the school, or you apply to the school and think, like, what is the egg, the chicken, like, who comes?
Good question.
That's a great question. And as it relates to sort of that money, you know, attackmen and midfielders command more money scholarship-wise. Defenders, you know, unless you're a guy that, you know, a school thinks you are literally going to be just a lockdown defender, you can create transition. They're going to put a value on sort of how they want to build their program, and that dictates obviously the scholarship level and money that you're going to command.
I think one other thing is, like, if you're a face-off guy, right, and the number 1 face-off guy commits the year before you, he probably got a good amount of money. If a lefty attackman's the number 2 lefty attackman in the country the year before you, he's probably getting more money than you. You don't need a goalie, a face-off guy, and a lefty attackman, and an ex-attackman to take up a chunk of your change in every class. So I think certain schools try and balance that out, or where maybe in the 2019 class you have an elite face-off guy, 2020 class you have an elite forward, the 2020 class you also have an elite lefty attackman, 2021 class you get the big ex-attackman, and kind of help your team out and balance it that way. But that's never to say that you're not going to give some sort of scholarship money to a really good player who deserves it.
To answer that question on the application process, right? So it really just depends on when you commit to this thing, right? So if you're a junior, your junior year, September 1, they're not quite ready for your application just yet. They can give you an idea of if you'll be accepted for the most part, but that application process doesn't really start until going into your senior year. And your particular high school really will guide you through that process as well, because that's more, that application process is very much less athletic and and more in that academic world. So,
What will I cut off so I can come?
But what will happen though is, the juniors, right, that are right now in the process of committing, et cetera, they will have been asked for their transcript that show their freshman and sophomore grades. And if maybe they've taken the SAT, some may actually, if they've only taken the PSAT, they'll ask them for the PSAT score. And so the coach will then take that. Most of the athletic, like the men's lacrosse programs, they have a dedicated admissions representative that then they will bring forward, a transcript and SAT scores or a PSAT score, and give that to the admissions representative, and they'll sort of give a thumbs up or we're going to need to see improvement this year, etc. And then that's sort of how you can base your level of stock in that commitment that you're going to get into that school, and you're going to sort of walk away from other institutions at that point.
And we got some other questions.
Yeah, but you're still, I think some of these coaches are still, schools are still at risk because, they may be interested in a kid and they may commit, but that kid hasn't taken or has taken the SAT and didn't get the score that the school wanted them to get. Like the Ivy League and Duke and Georgetown, they have thresholds that are higher than a lot of these other schools, correct?
Correct. And so that's all talked about, right? You probably had that throughout your process, right? Where they talk about certain things that you're going to need to meet in order to, for them to follow through on their end of them.
So that definitely plays an important role. Like I committed, as I said, sophomore year, and the coach said, here's the SAT score you got to hit, here's the GPA that you got to keep, and I didn't want to I didn't want to experiment what happened if I crept around that point, so I didn't. But it is, lacrosse definitely makes it easier to get into that school. Like I have a friend who is going to Georgetown who by his own could not go to Georgetown. But with lacrosse, that definitely makes it easier. But yeah.
What's that?
Yeah. I have a son who's 2020, so he's still under the old rules. We kind of might be share some of the same situation with somebody else in the room. We came from a public high school in Pennsylvania, which no one ever heard of. We played for a club team that no one ever heard of. We transferred to a school that someone's heard of, and we played for FCA all within 6 months. So he being a 2020, not playing for any big program, not playing for any big high school. What is the sense of urgency when he's seeing all these 2020s committing, and he's a face-off guy? So what do you tell him or me or us so I can sleep at night and have him sleep at night as far as the sense of urgency where he sees these spots filling up and filling up?
I know, when I saw the first 19 goalie, I kind of cold sweat. Second one went, third one went, and kind of what my mom was yelling, calm down, just take a deep breath. If as long as he has the work ethic, he's out there getting better, and he's you got to be reasonable with yourself at the same time. Is he going D3? Is he going clubs? Is he going D2? Pre-college, D1, and then they'll find him.
Well, that's the question that I think we all have, is that when you guys tell us, hey, here's where I think he is. You know where I think he is, right? So, but where is he really, and where he is? Because he's contacted a couple after Under Armour, by the way. We talked about the best thing to go to. Nobody ever heard of him, had the wrong helmet on, had the wrong everything. He goes to Under Armour, all of a sudden they're calling coach, and it's who's this kid? Where did he come from? Never seen him before, never heard of him before. He can hang with these kids,
Right.
and just because he was in the wrong high school, with the wrong helmet, and saying he should be that wrong way, but he was. Nobody ever saw him.
And to answer that first part, yes, we will be honest with you. And I think we'll be honest with you as long as you're willing for us to be honest with you. We are certainly not in the business of telling you where you can or cannot go to school. We're in the business of telling you where we think you will be successful. And if your goal is to go to Syracuse University and we feel like right now you are not a Syracuse player, we're not going to tell you that you can't be a Syracuse player. We're going to tell you what you need to do in order to become a Syracuse player. And so I think that mindset's really important to understand in that world. But yes, we will. And sometimes that is a difficult conversation. And sometimes that might be a little bit of a shock to the heart. But at the same point, we're not saying that it can't happen. We're just telling you right now, here's where we see you. And in order for you to get to that particular goal, here's what you need to do to help that.
And as it relates, I think Noah mentioned, eventually it will play itself out. I mean, I think it was 2014 maybe, there was a young man that was going to Virginia Tech to play club lacrosse, and he scored 5 goals in the MIAA championship game and upset maybe Calvert Hall. I don't know. But the next day, again, his phone rings and it's Maryland and it's, all the top schools going, hey, would you reconsider making the decision not to go to Virginia Tech to play lacrosse? So the talent will find its way to the field, and wherever that is, the coaches, if he's beating the kid that's already committed, they're going to figure out a way to get him to that school.
So just real quick to jump on that, and I know we'll move to another question. If I had $5 for every time we brought up this example, we'd all be rich. Garrett Zingalia, right? He was a 2018 FCA player. He was not a very good lacrosse player. He wasn't very talented as he progressed through his FCA career. His senior year, he just exploded because the kid just kept working and working and working and working, and he ended up being the best. I don't want to be biased, but the best defenseman in the MIAA, and any MIAA coach will go ahead and say that. And now he is actually starting for Towson University, and he did not, as a freshman, right? And they love him, and he had no looks, right? And he had no looks until the fall of his senior year, and he didn't commit until just around Thanksgiving of his senior year, right? So if you think about that, there are still spots for guys that just continue to work and work and work, and we all just grow at different levels too. It just depends on when your son decides to blossom.
Yeah, we use that example a lot. We had 3 guys in their sophomore year who were on our white team, and Connor Marr, who ended up going to Carolina, Owen McManus, who went to Hopkins, and Garrett Zingaya, who went to Towson. All 3, if you saw them the sophomore, you'd be like, they're okay, but great dudes. Very smart, very great academics, but all 3 of them were so hungry. They kept on working, and the hard work paid off. Other questions? There's a couple other hands.
Talk about communication. What is the level? How much involvement should a parent have in those communications? On the phone calls, how much of it? I know what it was like when I was with Brian. You and I went through the same year. And the phone starts ringing. I know my dad was like, "Give me the phone. I'll talk to this guy." I don't know how much that's changed because they're calling late at night and all that stuff. But like, how much communication is with the kid versus the parent, and how much interaction is that? Like, how involved should a parent be in those conversations?
The college coach wants to hear from the player, right? And they want to talk to them because at the end of the day, the college coach is going to be with the player. They love you to death. Don't take that the wrong way. They really do. But that player is going to be in their locker room. That player's in their huddle. That player is in their study hall. That player is representing him on campus. They have to get to know your son in order to make sure that that is the right fit.
Other questions?
Sort of along those lines, notice that colleges have summer camps. And so do you recommend the summer camp, like a week or something like that, as another way for the kid to go there and interact with the staff and show the condition?
Again, I think it really comes down to, it comes down to the family, and it comes down to the young man. I mean, if I go back to my experience, that's how recruiting was once upon a time. That's what you did. You went to the schools, to their sort of week-long camp, and you had the opportunity of extended interaction with the coaching staff, and you ate the food, and you slept in the dorms, and so I think there is value in that. But obviously times are changed, and it's not a one-size-fits-all, but there's definitely, in my opinion, yes, there's value in it.
We can't tell you how to spend your money, but if that's something that you guys want to do, and you want to play more lacrosse, I know I'm in a situation where I hear every day I don't want to play lacrosse at another event this summer. I don't want to do it. I mean, if you think about it, your son's going to do 3 events with FCA. If he makes the Under Armour, that's 4. He's going to play 1 event with his high school. If he goes to 1 prospect camp, we're at 6 weekends of your summer. 1, do you guys want to be able to field for more than 6 weekends? And 2, does he really want to be able to field? And I think Noah can say it. The MIAA schedule is absolutely grueling. Not to say that the national schedule you play in March isn't also grueling, but that April-May stretch is going to be very difficult. And then as soon as May ends, if you make it to the championship, what do you guys have, a week until FCA started? If that, a few days. And now FCA starts, you don't want your kid to be burnt out either, because when you burn out, you're not at your best. You want your kid to want to play more lacrosse. And I think that's the best thing we can do, is to get to the point where you miss play. And that's kind of my answer for that.
Can you do that one more time, in the sense of, even after the coaching, right, it's just different when it gets to high school. So just run that timeline. It was interesting. So you can run through that high school, spring, summer, FCA club, just that timeline. Could you hit that one more time? So it's...
Yeah, I think MIAA practice will start February 19th. The out-of-conference schedule, we're starting March 8th. The MIAA schedule, April 3rd. The MIAA championship, May 20-something, right? Week before Memorial Day. The first FCA event my group played in last year was June 2nd. Or what was it, June 8th?
Yeah.
June 8th, the second weekend of June. Last event we played in was the last weekend of June. The first weekend of July at Under Armour. The second weekend of July at the high school showcase. The fourth weekend of July, I coached the team in Lake Placid. So.
We, as a family, cut off at right after Under Armour. When Noah made Under Armour last summer, we were all elated. That was great news, terrific. But I would have been okay if he hadn't, because it's just one weekend less of lacrosse. And you can conceivably spend your entire summer playing lacrosse. And I think that, I know for Noah, he was done by, I'll let you talk about that.
So, the MIA season for me at least is long. Like this year, it starts early. Tryouts are long. It's also it's stressful. It's not easy. There's a lot of attention on your team, on you, how you play. There's a lot of traveling this year. We're flying to Arizona for spring break. There's a lot of it's a long season, and then you finish that season, and then you last year at least you pick up right in the club, and you're doing kind of what Coach Hyken said. You're doing all these events, and then I found myself I'd be being emailed from these showcases or emails come to Committed Combine, come to all these things, and I just at a certain point you pick a date and you're saying I'm not playing lacrosse past July. For me it was July 12th, and that's kind of how I went about that, and I don't regret that. And there were part of me was am I missing out? But if a college coach has had 5 months to watch you play, if he doesn't want you by then you gotta let that go.
So is it fair to say if you skip 1 or 2 this season, it's not a crushing blow?
Yeah, and I wouldn't suggest skipping
like, there's certain ones that should take priority over others, but there's certainly no harm in not being at one. I think just one last thing, the questions that you should be asking of, I think Coach Eichen alluded to it earlier, you know, you're interviewing the staff, you're interviewing the school, you're interviewing the dining facilities, all those different things. You know, there's definitely, and we'll get out some more information, but you know, that we can provide as far as like questions that you should be you know, asking of the schools, et cetera, as you go through the process. And so we'll provide some of that information, you know, again as time goes on, to help you again navigate this process.
Yeah, we want to thank you guys just for coming and being a part tonight. You know, hopefully it was informative. Don't feel like the communication stops when you walk out this door tonight, okay? Whether you're a 2023, I see some 2024s, or you're a 2020 from Pennsylvania, you know? We're here to walk through the process with you. We're here to walk you in the correct decision making. We're here to use our resources. And I know that we have a slew of FCA families, not just within our club, but even nationally, that love to talk about this stuff. You know, so if you go, yeah, like, hey, we'd love to go to BU, like, great, we probably got 4 or 5 things we can connect to BU, not only to the player, but to mom and dad as well too, and talk through it. Like, hey, how was your visit? How do you like the coach? Like, you know, hey, what is the expectation from an SAT standpoint? You know, walk us through that process that you had and the experience that you have there too. It's a huge resource. Okay. So, thank you guys for being here. Please drive safely, and we look forward to